Imagine spotting a ship drifting silently across the Atlantic Ocean. Its sails are still raised. Its cargo is untouched. Food remains on the table. Personal belongings are exactly where they should be. Nothing appears stolen. Nothing appears damaged. Yet every single person on board has vanished. No distress signal. No signs of violence. No body. No explanation. More than 150 years later, the mystery of the Mary Celeste remains unsolved. And the deeper you look into the evidence, the stranger it becomes. The story begins in November 1872. The Mary Celeste departed New York Harbor carrying over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. Her destination was Genoa, Italy. On board were Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and 7 experienced crew members. Benjamin Briggs was not reckless. He was respected, experienced, known for careful decision-making. Friends described him as intelligent, calm, and deeply religious. Nothing about this voyage seemed unusual. The weather was manageable. The crew was skilled. The ship was in excellent condition. Yet within weeks, everyone aboard would disappear forever. The question is simple. Why? On December 4th, 1872, another vessel called the Dei Gratia spotted something unusual. The Mary Celeste was drifting aimlessly. Her sails were damaged, but she was still afloat, still moving, still capable of sailing. When a boarding party climbed aboard, they expected to find a struggling crew. Instead, they found nobody. The captain's cabin was empty. The crew quarters were empty. The galley was empty. The deck was empty. The ship's lifeboat was missing. But almost everything else remained. Food supplies, cargo, personal possessions, even valuables. Nothing suggested piracy. Nothing suggested mutiny. Nothing suggested violence. The ship looked abandoned, but not abandoned for long. As if everyone had left suddenly and expected to return. Then investigators noticed something strange. The ship's final logbook entry was dated 9 days earlier. The vessel had traveled hundreds of miles since that final entry. A sounding rod used to measure water inside the ship appeared out of place. There was a small amount of water in the hold, but not enough to sink the ship, not enough to justify abandoning it. Remember that, because this single detail may be the key to the entire mystery. Why would an experienced captain abandon a perfectly survivable ship? Unless he believed something far worse was about to happen. And that possibility opens the door to theories far stranger than most people realize. There was one thing investigators could not ignore. The ship's lifeboat was gone. At first glance, that might seem insignificant. But think about it. If the crew boarded the lifeboat, they did so voluntarily. No signs of panic remained on the ship. No blood, no struggle, no evidence of violence. Captain Briggs was known as a careful and disciplined sailor. Would he really abandon a seaworthy vessel in the middle of the Atlantic? Especially with his wife and young daughter on board? Most experienced captains would choose almost anything before abandoning their ship. A lifeboat in the open Atlantic offered little chance of survival. The Mary Celeste offered shelter, food, water, protection. So what could possibly convince an experienced captain to leave all of that behind? The answer may lie below deck. Remember the cargo. More than 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. Highly flammable, potentially dangerous. Now imagine standing below deck. You begin to smell something unusual. A strange vapor, something leaking into the air. The cargo itself appears intact. But what if it wasn't? Years after the incident, investigators discovered that several barrels may have been made from porous red oak. Unlike other barrels, these could slowly leak alcohol vapors. And alcohol vapors can be deadly, invisible, odorless in some conditions. An explosive. Some researchers believe Captain Briggs feared a catastrophic explosion. Perhaps he heard a loud bang. Perhaps pressure built below deck. Perhaps he believed the ship was moments away from being destroyed. If that happened, leaving temporarily in the lifeboat might have seemed like the safest decision. But there is a problem. A very big problem. No explosion ever occurred. The Mary Celeste was found intact. Still floating. Still alive. Which raises another question. If the crew left because they feared an explosion, why didn't they return? Now imagine the scene. The captain orders everyone into the lifeboat. Perhaps only temporarily. Perhaps for a few minutes. A rope connects the lifeboat to the ship. The plan is simple. Stay a safe distance away. Wait. Then return. But the Atlantic Ocean is unforgiving. One powerful wave. One sudden gust of wind. One snapped rope. And everything changes. The crew watches in horror as the Mary Celeste begins drifting away. Slowly at first. Then faster. The ship moves beyond reach. The lifeboat becomes trapped in open water. No sail. No shelter. No supplies for a long journey. No chance of catching up. Imagine Captain Briggs watching the ship disappear into the fog, knowing everything they needed to survive was drifting away. That possibility is terrifying because it requires no pirates, no monsters, no supernatural forces. Just one mistake, one moment, one broken rope. The lifeboat theory explains many details, but not all of them. Why were certain navigation instruments missing? Why was the ship's final log entry 9 days old? Why did no trace of the lifeboat ever appear? And perhaps most importantly, why has no definitive answer emerged after more than 150 years? Every theory solves part of the puzzle. None solve all of it. And that is exactly why the Mary Celeste continues to fascinate the world. Perhaps the Mary Celeste was never truly a ghost ship. Perhaps it was simply the victim of a tragic chain of events. A decision made under pressure. A lifeboat lost to the sea. A family and crew swallowed by the Atlantic. Or perhaps there is still something we have missed. A clue hidden in the evidence. A detail overlooked for generations. A final piece of the puzzle waiting to be discovered. The ship was found. The cargo was found. The personal belongings were found. But the people were never found. And maybe that is why the story still haunts us today. Because somewhere between New York and Genoa, 9 people vanished. And the ocean never gave them back.